Hello and welcome to this video in which I'm going to show you how to make some lovely little pouches using the quilt as you go method. This video has very kindly been sponsored by Serious Readers and I will tell you all about their Serious Lights range later on. Now for our first one we're going to use squares, and you can make this in any size, but for my smaller square I'm using a 4.5 inch square and the wadding is the same size, and the larger square is 6.5 inches, and I'm folding it over by 1/2 inch and then 1/2 inch again. You can make this in any size, just make sure your larger square is 2 inches bigger than your smaller one. You just need to pin or clip it in place as you go around the edges. I prefer the Wonder Clips, I find them really great for this technique. Then very simply you just need to stitch it in place. I use the same applique type stitch that I would use to stitch a binding down, but you can of course do this by machine if you prefer. Now you could add some quilting if you want, but mine is absolutely fine how it is. And now it's ready to turn it into a pouch, and that couldn't be easier. So I'm just folding it in half with the side that I want on the outside facing out, and I'm just joining those corners together and locking my thread in place, and then I'm going to ladder stitch that opening closed. Now this is just one way you can do it. If you prefer, you could whip stitch this gap together, and if you choose that method, then I would do this with the right sides on the inside. Now doing a ladder stitch is really simple. You just work along that fold of the fabric, making a little stitch, and then directly opposite you make another one on the other side, and you just work along your seam, alternating between the two sides until you get to the end, give it a pull and secure it, and there you have one seam joined. When you've done that, you just need to join your other seam in exactly the same way, and of course if you chose to whip stitch this, then do that. And once it's joined, you have your little pouch, and you just need to add a small snap fastener to it to finish it off. And I do that at the point in which the top overlaps with the bottom. And I'm using these really tiny snap fasteners, just 7mm, because my pouch is really small. When I'm attaching a fastener, I actually like to use a bit of a chunkier thread, so I'm using a 12 weight thread for this. I just find it more secure, and it's also quicker to do than if you're doing it with a finer thread. And just for fun, I really wanted to add a tiny button just to finish it off, just for decorative purposes. I think these might possibly be the tiniest buttons in the world, I don't know. So here is the finished pouch. It was really fun to make, very quick, and you can make them in any size, but this small one is perfect for storing something like AirPods or maybe earphones wound up or anything like that, maybe some medication or whatever you want to put in your bag. It's perfect for that. So now we are on to our next pouch made in the quilt as you go style, and this one uses hexagons, and instead of wadding I'm using hexiform, and I've got two 3/4 inch hexagons here, so they're less than an inch, they're 3/4 inches on each side, and rather than place it the fuzzy side down that we normally do with hexiform, I'm actually placing it down on the smooth side, and you'll see why in a minute. But I'm going to cut them out to be exactly the size of the hexagon. And next I'm placing them onto the fabric that will wrap around it, and this time cutting it out with about 1/2 inch seam allowance on all sides. And I just found it better if you place the fuzzy side down on this one, it keeps everything in place better. Now, because they are small, I actually found that using the Soline glue pen was really great for keeping the folds down before stitching it in place, much easier than having lots of pins or clips because the shape is so small. A huge thank you to Serious Readers for sponsoring today's video, and I'd just like to take a moment to tell you all about their wonderful high definition light, which has made such a difference to my sewing. Now it's January, and I don't know about you, but I do have some sewing resolutions, and one of them is to get more done and not to waste the evenings. And thanks to my high definition light from Serious Readers, when I was making this video, I could continue it into the evening and stitch that quilt as you go hexagon together, and that is all thanks to the daylight wavelength technology that the high definition light has. I absolutely love how it replicates daylight as closely as technically possible, and it means that the colours of my fabrics and threads show up so clearly, but it also means that it's really relaxing on my eyes, and that is just great for sewing in the evening. I don't get any eye strain, and I'm finding that I can continue sewing for even longer, which means that I can make even more things, and that makes me happy. The light is really high quality and it just looks so nice in my sewing space as well, and many of you have got in touch with me recently to tell me how much that you love your Serious light, and that just makes me so happy that it's making a difference to so many people. So if you'd like to find out more, there's a link in the description box, and you can use the code SR412 for £100 off a high definition light and free delivery as well. So a huge thank you to Serious Readers for sponsoring today's video. So it's the next day and some snow came, which was really surprising, but let's get back to our tutorial. So I decided I was going to embellish those little tiny quilt as you go hexagons before making it into the pouch. So I'm using some Wonderfil Alana acrylic wool blend thread, which is a really nice alternative to embroidery thread. And I just love doing these little lazy daisy stitches with a French knot in the centre. They make really pretty flowers. So now you need to cut some rectangles. So you need a smaller rectangle to be 3.5 inches wide by 6 inches long, and you want your wadding or hexiform to be that size as well. And your larger piece that you're going to wrap around the edge needs to be 5 by 7.5. And it's the same principle as before, just fold the fabric over twice to encase the raw edge and stitch it down in place. So now that is done, we are going to attach the hexagons to the rectangle. So it's really easy, it's much easier than it might seem, but you just need to line up one of the edges and match the corners with one of the longer edges of your rectangular piece and just whip stitch them together. Do this with the right sides facing each other. So once you've reached the next corner, then it's really easy. You just then line up the next side of the hexagon with the rectangle and keep on going this way. And you want to stitch around 5 of the 6 sides of the hexagon. So when you've stitched around 5 sides, you'll see that it'll look like this. So you just need to fasten off your thread, and then you can turn it right side out to see what it will look like. And you just need to now repeat this with the other hexagon on the other side. So this is what it looks like when both have been stitched in place. So you've got this nice little case, little pouch that you can put reels of cotton in and any other small things, and it folds over to fit just like this. And now we need to stitch the fastening in place. So I decided for this one to put one on either side, and then it wouldn't stick up as much on the edges, but I did make another one where I put a fastening in the centre, so I'll show you that one at the end, but it's entirely up to you. I'm just using those tiny snap fasteners, those 7mm ones, stitching them in place, and then again I'm going to add some teeny tiny buttons just for decorative purposes, and yeah, that's all there is to it. It's really simple. So here it is finished, and you can see it closes by fastening either side, but like I said, you could put one in the middle instead, and it's so cute and just perfect for little tiny sewing items. What more could you want? Keep watching because I'm going to show you all of the little Quilt As You Go pouches that I made over the last few days. Lots of different sizes, and they were really fun. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial and that you'll give it a go. Massive thank you for watching, and a huge thank you to everyone over on Patreon who is supporting me. It really means so much and it keeps this channel going, so thank you. Take care of yourselves and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.